Hey everybody, welcome to Getting Your Crap Together with Christy. And you guys are never going to believe this, but I just finished a 10-day fast. That's right, 10 days, no eating, water only. And I'm going to share with you some of the things that I learned, what I thought I would experience, what I actually experienced, and the book that helped me get through it. As I mentioned, I just finished a 10-day water-only fast. And you're probably thinking to yourself, why would anybody voluntarily go without food for 10 days? And the answer is pretty simple. I was actually really inspired by my husband, Merrill. He had previously done a 10-day fast. Now, to be perfectly honest, I thought he was crazy. And I was not very supportive. In fact, you could say that I was pretty mean about it. I was the typical naysayer. You are going to slow down your metabolism. You're going to go into starvation mode. You're going to burn muscle, and you're going to feel lightheaded. You're going to feel dizzy. Have you ever heard anything like that when it comes to fasting? Well, that's just it. There's a lot of myths about fasting. And one of the things that Merrill told me is he said, you need to read this book called The Ultimate Guide to Fasting by Dr. Jason Fung. So I said, okay, fine, right? Because this is our marriage we're talking about. And I did. I read Dr. Fung's book and I was absolutely blown away. And I was so inspired that I decided just like 3 days later that I was going to just go all in and do a 10-day fast. Now, previously I was doing intermittent fasting. And so I was somewhere between like an 18-hour fast. I had gone all the way up to a 40-hour fast, but nothing near a multiple day fast. So I was entering into new territory and I was absolutely terrified. Some of the things that I thought that I would experience in a multi-day fast was one, hunger. I believed that hunger intensified, right? I mean, have you ever missed a meal and then you just are hungry, right? You get that feeling in your stomach and you're ready for food. So in my mind, I thought, how on earth can I fast for 10 days? Because that feeling is just going to get worse. But it doesn't. Hunger comes and goes. And actually, by day 3, I was no longer feeling hungry at all. And I want to say, like day 7 or 8, I had completely lost the desire to eat. Most of the time when I wanted to eat, I realized that it had nothing to do with being hungry. It was either an emotional trigger or some other stimuli like driving by a restaurant or seeing a commercial or noticing the time. Hey, it's 6 o'clock, it's time to eat dinner, or it's 12 o'clock, it's time to eat lunch. Most of the time, I realized during the fast that I wasn't eating because I was hungry. I was actually just eating because I was being prompted to by either an emotional trigger or some external stimuli telling me that it's time to eat. Another thing that I thought that I would experience is fatigue. I thought that I would have low energy and that I wouldn't feel very good fasting for a long period of time. And that's actually quite the opposite. My energy level was just as good as it had always been. In fact, I had found that I was waking up earlier, my mental clarity was great, and I did not feel drained at all. Another one of the things that I was really concerned about, because I had heard this from other people, was that I would have low blood sugar, meaning that I'd feel dizzy, lightheaded, just, I wouldn't feel great. And I really don't want to mess up the science in this, guys. You have to read the book. Just like Merrill told me, he's like, you're not going to understand until you read this book. And I actually listened to it on Audible. The science behind it is so clear that you're not going to get low blood sugar. Now, you might have a medical condition. And let's be perfectly clear. I'm not a doctor. I relied on Dr. Fung's information from this book to help me through my fast, and I'm also not on any medication. If you're thinking about doing a fast, you definitely want to consult your doctor because you might have some other factors to think about. But in terms of low blood sugar, I didn't experience anything like that and felt really great during my fast. If you ask me if I'm going to participate in more long-term fasting, absolutely. I absolutely will continue to do some intermittent fasting every day, and I will be doing some alternate day fasting. Essentially right now, I'm just kind of testing out what my body really responds best to. Keep in mind your goals of why you're fasting. For me, right now I'm fasting in terms for weight loss and regulating my insulin levels and my insulin resistance, which he talks a lot about in his book. So for me, I'm absolutely going to do some more long-term fasts because I saw the benefits and I feel great. Now we go into actionable insight, and I wanted to share with you right from Dr. Fung his top 9 tips on how you can have a successful fast. Tip number 1, drink water. You're going to drink a lot of water. In fact, you're probably going to be drinking at least a gallon a day. And in fact, the water helps you overcome hunger. So even if you're not fasting, water is a great tool to use to help curb your appetite. So tip number 1, drink lots of water. Tip number 2, stay busy and keep your mind off of food. If you're just going to do a 24-hour fast, you might want to pick a day where you know you got a lot of work to do, so that way you're not just sitting around thinking about food. Keep your mind busy and off of food, and you'll definitely feel good about your fast. Tip number 3, ride the waves of hunger. Hunger comes and goes. It doesn't intensify like I mentioned earlier. You may get a wave of hunger, you'll want to drink some water, and then guess what? It just goes away. It doesn't intensify, it comes and goes. So just ride those waves and know that it's not going to continue to persist. It does go away. Tip number 4, don't tell people you're fasting. And Merrill's a really good reason. He told me, and what did I do? I told him it was crazy, it was absurd, it was extreme, it was unsafe, and I did that because I was uneducated in fasting. And that's exactly why you need to read this book, because in this book, Dr. Fung's going to go over all the different types of fasting, how to start your fast, how to end your fast, how to do a long-term fast, what you can eat and drink during your fast, and basically he also goes over the history and the science, debunking all the myths about fasting. So if you are going to go on a fast, just be careful. Make sure that you pick a group of supportive people who are educated on fasting so they understand what you're doing. Tip number 5, give yourself at least a month. Trust me when I say that it gets easier. In fact, by the end of my fast, it was very easy. Now, was I excited to end it? For sure. But was it easier the longer I went? Absolutely. And so he says, give yourself a month. If you're doing intermittent fasting, give yourself a month of it and it will get easier. If you're doing alternate day fasting, give yourself at least a month. Just like any muscle that you exercise, the more you do it, the easier it becomes and you'll see the benefits. Tip number 6, make sure that you follow a nutritious diet. Just because you're fasting, it doesn't give you free reign to eat whatever you want. Dr. Fung suggests that you stick with a low sugar, low processed food diet. So ideally something along the lines of a ketogenic diet, meaning you want lower carbs, high fat content. It makes it easier to fast. Now, I'm a vegan right now, so it's pretty easy. I'm just avoiding processed foods and eating a lot of whole foods. So the cool part about me is that during my fast, I didn't experience any headaches, caffeine withdrawals, nothing like that, because I was already just drinking water anyways, and I had been sticking to a low carb diet, so I really didn't experience any withdrawals. So just because you're fasting doesn't give you a free license to eat as much chocolate cake as you want. You've got to make sure that you're on a nutritious diet. Tip number 8, when you come off your fast, don't binge. Pretend like your fast never even happened. Don't use it as an opportunity to just eat and eat and eat and eat. Just make yourself a normal meal and move on. Besides, you don't want to undo all the great work that you've done during your fast. The last tip is probably one of the most practical ones. Fit fasting into your lifestyle. Again, there's a time for feast and there's a time for famine. You definitely don't want to be the relative that's always fasting at every family event. There is a time for you to enjoy food with your family, and then you can just change your fast and mix it up so that it makes sense. Make fasting fit into your lifestyle. So now you're aware of my experience of participating in a 10-day fast. I'll tell you that you absolutely have to read this book. Dr. Fung, again, he's going to go over all the common myths of fasting. He's going to go over the history of fasting, where it came from, why it's not more popular than it is right now, and most importantly, he breaks down the science. I highly encourage you guys to check him out. He is primarily a kidney doctor, so he spends a lot of time with patients that are obese and suffer from diabetes. He is absolutely a genius when it comes to helping with those items, primarily using fasting as a tool to help his clients. So I really hope you guys check out this book and that you enjoy it. And if you've ever participated in a fast, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear more about it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you follow us on Facebook so you don't miss any of our featured content.